working a lot with people in trainings concerning business behavior and how to behave in a business context, and I'm sure that there are like the 5 most asked questions when it comes to a topic like that. Topics where people are still a little bit insecure, where they don't know how to act, and is it like one of those cases that you always bring in your trainings?
So when we start right from the beginning, we can say the most important part or the most important question that has to be answered during those days is how to create each other in the right way. Mm-hmm. So in the first part verbally, and in the second part by handshake. Mm-hmm. That's the first part, and that's always the first part, because we always meet someone somewhere during the business occasion. Mm-hmm. And even though if it is like on the business floor where we meet our boss, mm-hmm. So what is the right behavior? Do we handshake, or do we just say hello or good morning, or what is the right thing? Just to answer that question, because it's the most important one for everyone at first, we can say the right thing is to greet your boss verbally first, because mm-hmm. you are the rank lower person, mm-hmm. and the rank lower person always greets the rank higher person verbally first. That's mm-hmm. the most important thing. And then when it comes to handshake, the second part, we can say after the verbal greeting, it is up to your boss if he reaches out for a handshake or not. Normally, it is the good, polite way to do it. Mm-hmm. But even if he decides not to reach out for a handshake, is it okay for the both of you? So then just act normal the way you do, mm-hmm. and just pass by, and that's just it.
Okay.
So we can say when it comes to verbal greeting and when it comes to the handshake part, it is always the hierarchy that is important. So the mm-hmm. rank in business that decides who greets whom first and why. There is a second most important asked question. What about the women in business? Mm-hmm. And we can say women and men in business, when it comes to business behavior or always, they are equal now. So women are treated the same way, being treated the same way than men. And if there is a woman rank lower, she has to greet their bosses, doesn't matter if men or women, verbally first, mm-hmm. and wait if they reach us out for a handshake or not.
Let's try that. I'm your boss, you're my employee. Okay. I'm working down the hallway in the morning, and then you're in the corner.
Okay, so I come up to you, or I try to pass you on mm-hmm. the hallway, and then I say, "Good morning, Ms. Kiesewetter, how are you today?"
"Good morning, Ms. Vogel. Nice to see you this morning. I'm good. How are you?"
"Not too bad, thank you."
And how about the shaking part? I did it like that on purpose this time. So
of course.
What is it about that shaking like we did?
Okay, so we don't really shake hands. Mm-hmm. We say we shake hands, but shaking is like we shake our smoothie in the morning, yeah? So we don't do that. So we can say normally we like swipe hands, yes, a little bit, but not shaking. Mm-hmm. The really shaking word is out of really shaking hands, yeah? So we leave that just out to shake
So more like a pressing part.
A good, brief hand shake without shaking is good. So like a short, brief swipe, and then that's just
it. Okay.
Yeah. And a brief one is important, and not mm-hmm. a wet one, of course. Few people have some kind of issues and problems with wet hands, yeah? That comes sometimes by nature. And then just make sure that you have a tissue in your pocket or somewhere. If it comes to an occasion that you meet business partners and you come into a meeting, then you know maybe, okay, I have this problem with wet hands. Make sure that you wash your hands before. That's the first part. Then you get kind of rid of the sweaty hands. And in the second part, we can say always have a tissue in your pocket, and just make sure that you are like wiping your hands before. Then it makes the whole situation a little bit drier and not that wet. Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah, just a little tiny thing that you have to keep an eye on, because you always make a kind of first impression when you walk into a room, and of course the second impression when you shake hands. Yeah, that's important. So one other thing you mentioned already, we meet each other on the hallway, and then I greet you verbally. So what is the right way to greet verbal? Do I say hi, hello? So hi and hello does not make sense at all when it comes to business. So the important part is when you greet someone the verbal way, your boss or whatever, whomever it is, you can say good morning. Now it's 10 o'clock, so it's still morning. Or you greet the right way when it comes to afternoon or during lunchtime or whatever it is. Just make sure that you have an eye onto your watch, just to have the right
time in mind.
Yes, that's right.
So to sum that up, we don't say hello, we don't say hi, we don't say what's up to our boss.
Of course not, yeah.
I guess that's kind of common sense. And we should adapt to the time of the day.
Yeah.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Yeah.
Whenever we meet a business partner, our boss, someone from a higher hierarchy.
Yeah, that's right, of course. And if we're talking about the hierarchy, there is often one thing. There are academic degrees and there are aristocratic ones as well. And often people think that academic or aristocratic things have a kind of place in the business hierarchy as well. But it isn't like that. We always have two things. We have the personal life part, where those things are really important, and we have the business context. And during this business, it is always about the position within the company. And not if you have a title, doesn't matter what kind of title it is. And if I am the rank lower one, and then I have an academic degree, and you are my boss and you haven't, it doesn't matter. You're still higher in company, in business, so I have to greet you first, and you decide to reach out for a handshake.
Okay. And how is the situation when there are more than one person meeting each other? So let's say there is a business meeting and you're the one coming latest to the meeting, entering the room, and there are already, let's say, 5 people standing in a circle and having a conversation. How do I act then?
So you, of course, come into a room and you are entering the group, and you, of course, say good morning, good afternoon, whatever daytime it is. And then there is normally, we can say the first part is normally there is one person in this group that knows you and the other ones as well. So it is normally the part of this person to introduce you to the group. So you are the newly arrived, so you have to be introduced to those who are present. But there are a few other things when you meet each other the first time during business occasions, meetings, whatever it is. Might be evening events as well. And it's, of course, at first the rank in the company, the position you have. And then if you don't know the rank, because sometimes you meet someone from another company and you don't know his right position rank in their company, so that doesn't make sense to have an eye on this part.
Yeah.
Then it's normally the younger one is being introduced to the elder one.
Okay.
And if this part doesn't, really is visible, we can say, because be careful with that part, the older and the younger one as well. So if it is not really visible, if you are the younger one or I am the younger one, then just keep up with this man-women thing. So then normally the lady and the gentleman factor comes in. Yeah, then it's always ladies first.
Okay.
And when and if there is no lady and gentleman part,
so just two ladies meeting each other, for example.
That's right. So then there is no gentleman coming into this group conversation and in this introducing part. Then there is the question: is there a foreigner, and is there a local as well? Because we are local, we are at home, we're like safe. The foreigner has to be introduced to the other ones, that everyone knows, okay, you are the foreigner from, where are you from, hello, welcome. That's the whole part that comes into this conversation. And we had the newly arrived and the present person already. So this is more or less the things where you can skip from the top to the bottom.
Like a pyramid, you start at the top and then you just go down to the bottom depending on the person's there, the situation.
That's right. If you are not having the rank, then just have an eye on the elder or younger ones. After that, have an eye on lady and gentleman, foreigner, local, and the newly arrived and the person who's present already. We can say.
Okay. And then you have met those people and you go together to a restaurant. In order to have a business dinner with like a group of people you don't know that well, and then it comes to the part of sharing with your drinks. How do I behave there? I think that's a really important question for a lot of people.
That's right. So we can say ages ago, people started to cheer their classes and make noises with it as well. But nowadays, we can say it's forbidden to make any kind of noises with the glass. So you just take your glass, cheer a toast, and then you just start drinking without making any noises at all. The history or the historical part where it comes from, it originally comes from the Middle Ages, where kings often were poisoned by their enemies. And that's why we normally cheer a toast and make noises with the glasses. Because in the Middle Ages, they tried to swap their drinks into the glass of the other one.
Okay.
Just to make sure if my drink is poisoned, he wouldn't drink it at all. So just to make sure I can drink my drink without getting poisoned afterwards, so that's just a sidekick we can say, or we always have in mind where it comes from. And normally we don't have that kind of enemies today that we have to make sure that we are not getting poisoned anymore.
Okay.
So that's why we leave that out, making noises and swap drinks into other glasses.
So we just hold up our glass for a little second, see that everyone is doing the same, and then have a sip of it.
That's right.
Maybe say cheers.
That's of course still allowed, just to say, okay, we start drinking and eating right now. Normally the host will do that, just to give the sign that we start the evening or the course, whatever it is at the moment, and then you just start drinking away.
Yeah, it's really interesting to have a look back in the past and see where all those manners are actually coming from.
Yeah.
I heard something about the sneezing part as well, that it comes from the Middle Age, the Black Death period, and people just said it to themselves when someone else did sneeze, in order to bless yourself from getting that disease or whatever it is as well.
The Black Death, yeah.
And in order to cheer the ghosts or the demons away, whatever.
Yeah, that's right. That's more or less the same story with another thing, the sneezing part. It's the same today. The question is often, what if I am sneezing?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to say, bless you? Or do we avoid this one as well? And the answer to that question is you avoid to say, bless you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not necessary to make such a big thing out of it. Imagine you're sitting in the meeting, there are 10 people around the round table and you're sneezing and everyone is like, oh, bless you, bless you, bless you, yeah. So that's not necessary anymore. The historical part, of course, there's no Black Death disease anymore where we have to wish ourselves, bless you, so bless myself, not to get this disease. And it is just on your side now to say, oh, I'm sorry. And that's just it. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And that's just it. And the other part is not saying bless you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I would say this is about taking place in business for about like 5-7 years now. So it's not that new, but it's not that old anymore.
So it changed during the last years?
Of course, a few things change.
It's really interesting that it comes from a historical story that is not important anymore for our times, and then the manners get adapted to the new time that is coming.
Yeah, that's right. It's often like that, and that's often these are the often interesting stories behind all those manners. And the people always say, oh, that was so interesting. Now I can remember the new rules today in business because of the story, because it doesn't make sense anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.